Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your other Short 2. We're going to do Alice Forever After today, and not because it's first alphabetically. No, it's because there's quite a few things out this week, and I wasn't sure what to review, but when I saw this book, I was like, well, it's another Alice in Wonderland book. Is this going to be either A, about drugs, or B, a young woman coming of age? And it seems to be those are your two go-to story types for anyone who uses Alice to tell their story. Now, I don't really mind this too much. I've got to be honest on this one because if you want to stay vaguely true to the source material, you can't really go too far beyond it and explore brand new ground. If you do, it just feels like you're telling whatever story you want, and one of the characters happens to be called Alice, and that does bug me. I mean, not necessarily Alice in Wonderland, but there's other characters that I like when people have told stories about them in alternate timelines, alternate realities, and it honestly just feels like they haven't got anything about the character right. They just want to tell a story, and if they tag that character into it, it's going to get some kind of additional hit, some additional cachet maybe. In this particular case, it does feel pretty authentic, I've got to be honest. And I don't want to spoil too much about the story. I'd like to think I can get through this one without telling you too much detail about what's going on. Certainly nothing that would stop your enjoyment of it if you want to go out and read it right now. I certainly will try my best. What I can talk about is how good it looks, and we do have Dan Panosian both writing and doing a significant portion of the artistry for this one. And I like Dan's artwork. I have given him quite a lot of credit for doing some fantastic stuff in other books I've read and reviewed. He's not necessarily somebody I would go out of my way to pick up their stuff because he's on it, but his name certainly moves the needle a little bit in favour of, this could be worth checking out. But it's not just him on the art. He's also got Giorgio Spalletta. I do apologise for mispronouncing that one. And it kind of works in the fact that he's been given the job of doing the Wonderland art style. And it just lets Giorgio go a little, or Georgia? Sorry, I'm bad with names. Go a little bit further into the tall grass. There is far more in terms of over the top characterization. There is a far more of a cartoony kind of feel to it, but it works. It works very effectively because we are dealing with characters who are big over the top caricatures of themselves. But it goes in his own way to a certain degree, which I found really quite nice. Everyone's probably got like a preferred version of Alice in terms of the visual aesthetic of it. When I was a kid, it was Disney Alice in Wonderland thing. But in this one, we meet a cat, and honestly, it took me a few more beats than I think it should have done to figure out that it was the Cheshire Cat. Because yes, it is a cat, and yes, it was grinning, but it's so uniquely proportioned and looks so different aesthetically than what I was expecting. But still, the moment my brain clicked into gear, it's like, well, what other cat would it be? I was like, oh, right. And then every other character I met was like, yep, I see what they're doing here. This is just going in a slightly different direction with the aesthetic form, but it still works. It still feels genuine and authentically how they would exist in the world. The London stuff, I was going to say the real world then, but is London really real? Can we ever be sure? That's Dan himself. And one of the big differences, not only the fact that you get far more human looking characters because it is the human world, but it's a slightly more delicate line to it. And it reminded me that in a lot of stuff I've seen of Panosian stuff, he does have a slightly harder, heavier line. This one, it looks a little bit softer. You throw in the fact that the colouring changes as well. In the Woodland stuff, it is far deeper, far richer. We have darker, wider shadowing. In this one, it's a little bit more of a soft, pastel kind of thing. But it kind of works, even though it is where far more horrific things seem to be happening, that it is slightly more lighter. Yes, there is still use of shadow quite effectively, but it's more a case of everything just looks a little bit dull. Everything just is overshadowed by mundanity. And I can't but feel that this is on purpose for story reasons, because while this isn't explicitly about a young lady taking drugs and her experiences, narcotics do play a part in it, but it's again not a young woman coming of age. It is a young woman being abused by somebody who has power over them. And how the narcotics plays into that is certainly going to be a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you too much about that. But we do have really nice character beat setups for antagonists and protagonists. We have multi levels of this as well. We have people who are seemingly driving the story forward, others who are henchmen who might not even realize they are. And we have people who seem to be blissfully unaware of what's going on. One thing that did impress me story-wise, and this isn't really a spoiler, is this is years after the original story, and Alice has a child of her own, and my first thought was, well, this is going to be Alice's child having adventures in Wonderland. But no, they actually subverted my expectations on that one, had the character be useful, and I really hope we'll get time to spend well, more time will be spent with the characters, building them up. But for a first issue, it launched a very strong story, playing around with the idea and the mythology of the Alice franchise, going in its own direction, but not so far off the beaten path that it doesn't make sense, it doesn't feel authentic. Honestly, liked it more than I thought it would. That's it for me for now, though. Until I see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!